My name is Kaden Mattinson, and I am the executive director of Mending Village.
So, what inspired you to create Mending Minds Village?
So we have a daughter who at the time was 4 going on 5 who needed some extra, mental health help. And we, we weren't being able to really find those answers for her by ourselves, just looking as an individual. And so, we started asking questions about how we could help her out and what was needed. And, the biggest answer was to get somebody with an organization that could be behind us. And so we said, well, we'll make one. And so we did. We put the work together, and in about 90 days or so, we had Mending Minds Village put together.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about your own mental health journey?
Yeah, so we, growing up, mental health was kind of a taboo subject, and so you didn't talk about it, growing up in the 90s. And so it wasn't really until about 2000 when I met, my first therapist. And back then I was kind of a troubled child. And, it turns out a lot of that was due to, anxiety and ADHD and things that could be dealt with. But, of course, we didn't talk about it. So being in trouble in school was not uncommon, just being unable to control my behaviors and not knowing why I couldn't listen and sit still in school. And so, I've worked with, even still, I work with therapists and, work on ADHD issues. And it's interesting to see how that works with your own kids and going, oh, okay, that's a problem. That's how I was.
Well, I know for me, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder too when I was 37. But I always thought,
Wow.
why am I different and everything growing up? How important is it to reach out to young people and help them at an early age?
So we're actually working with the University of Utah and with Huntsman Mental Health Institute to implement early intervention programs, because that is absolutely key. If we can get kids identified as early as even 5, when they're going into kindergarten, start working with them on mental health and start really educating them and their parents on mental health, then we're going to have much greater results when they get into junior high and high school, when some of the hormones definitely kick in and don't help with matters. And then you get into that age where there's bullying and cliques and things like that takes place. And if they can get to that grade level and understand long before then how to deal with it, then we're going to have much greater success.
Yeah. What have you learned from your daughter?
Patience is a big one. She has a disorder called DMDD, which is a mood dysregulation disorder, and she also has ODD, which is oppositional defiance disorder. And so, the mood dysregulation kicks in, and then she doesn't want to listen to our coaching on how to, go take some breaths and really use those coping skills, because we told her to. And so, learning how to take that time and take that step back and breathe through some of those challenges has been really key. And it's also kind of teaching us how, with other kids that maybe don't have that, but have disorders like ADD, or even autism is a big one, where you definitely need to have that patience and you have to look at things from outside the box. And so she's been vital in that learning.
What are some of the programs you have?
So we have two different programs right now, and underneath of them we have different levels of each program. So we have one program for mental health advocacy, which is kind of the groundwork for Mending Minds Village, where we go in, we provide the education, we really advocate for kids and their families to get what they need. And then we also provide education for like the schools on some of the new things that are coming out. We really work with the schools on QPR training, which is question, persuade, and refer, which is a huge suicide prevention program that we've implemented this year. But then we also educate on available resources. So a lot of teachers that need some extra training, we introduce them to programs like mental health first aid, which is a great program that is offered by the state of Utah and by the national level that really teaches on how to identify mental health issues. And then on the other side of that, we have our suicide prevention program, which we just started in January, because along with that mental health, suicide is the end result of some of these problems, and so we want to figure out how we could intervene and how we could reduce that number, because it's an insane number in the nation right now. And so we've started that QPR training was a result of that program. That was one of the first things that we wanted to implement. But also, we do advocacy work with that as well. Do some training with the schools on how to observe that. Do some training with our local law enforcement and fire departments. And then, we participate with other organizations in the area as well on some of their walk events, and we try to do kind of joint events to raise awareness.
I know for me that I'm getting treatment and all that for my diagnosis, but it's also tough on my wife and kids. So what are some of the things families can do to, just help themselves as well?
So again, it's always about asking. You don't know you don't know what you don't know. And so if you have an issue as a family and you identify somebody, especially one of your kids, or even as we get older, you notice that your partner or another adult in your family is having issues, it's always that that QPR training is vital in that. It teaches you how to ask those questions and ask what they need and how you can best intervene for them. But it's also knowing who to go to. And so if you've got a question, if you're a family member that has somebody, and you as a family member, we found that one of the worst things for us is we didn't know how to ask. And so having somebody outside that was able to ask those questions was great. And that's kind of where we come in as an advocate, is we are not afraid to ask those questions. And when we get those answers, asking the question is great, but if you don't know what to do with that information, you're equally in trouble. And so, not only do we ask the question, but we know who to send you to, and we know how to get that person help. And in some cases, we know how to get them help quickly. And so, don't be afraid to use your advocates, but also don't be afraid to ask, and then call for help if you need it.
What do you do to help your own mental health?
We utilize the group for sure. And then we also, like I say, we still are in communication with therapists all the time. Not only do we run the organization, but I'm also an EMT here in Morgan, Utah, and so I've got some great resources through that as well, where we kind of have that outreach program available. We've got the chief here that's trained in how to help, and so that plays a big part. But we utilize our groups for sure.
With being an EMT, you're dealing with some people's worst day of their life. How do you, not bring your own emotions into their worst day?
That's part of the training that you go through as an EMT of how to utilize some of the resources that are available, especially when you're in these rural areas where the people you're working on. it can be difficult, especially if we are losing that patient. It can be really difficult. But knowing how to kind of take that step back and not being afraid to use the team. The team is really good about if one of us is not able to take that, separate it, and focus, somebody else will step forward and let us kind of step back and go decompress for a minute. So it's the fire department is one of the greatest teams that you could ever work with.
For you, what would you say to anyone going through a tough time?
I would say that this is not the end of your day. This a tough time is just that. It's a tough moment in time, and it's really really important that that no matter what you're going through, you are important, and your life and your existence matters to this world. And even if you don't feel it at the moment, I assure you that somebody around you will definitely help you get through that. And know that there are people out there that are willing to help you, that are willing to take that step forward and help you get through that moment.
You said earlier when you were growing up, just talking about mental health was taboo. But have you seen just the stigma of talking about mental health now dissipating?
It is slowly. It is very, very slowly. And a lot of that comes from that education. People don't know that it's okay to talk about it. And there are still the groups, you get into, like we say, some of these smaller communities where, it's big brother, super close knit, tight communities where we still find struggles with getting people that are willing to talk about it, because they don't want to be judged for coming out and talking about their mental health. But on the flip side of that, we're also finding that if we can get people to start talking, other people fall into the mix and go, oh, well, I didn't know we could do this. So yeah, this is me too. And so it's kind of finding that edge and just finding that right person to talk to that is really breaking up some of these, myths and getting people comfortable with speaking.
Where do you want to see the organization in the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
I really want to continue what we're doing. We want to get more into the national level. Right now, we focus a lot of our work in Utah and kind of some of the, connecting states to us. But a lot of the work that we're doing, the way we're building the programs is so that we can copy and paste it and go into other communities that need the help as well. Because it's not just a Utah problem. It really is a national issue.
How can people reach out and learn more?
So you can reach out a couple ways. You can find us on the website at mendingmindsvillage.org. You can also find us on all social media. We're under Mending Minds Village on most. The only one that's different is Twitter, where we're Mending Mindsville. Just didn't allow us enough characters to put the rest of it in there. Or you can always call me. You can reach me by phone at 801-259-3312.